Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Thriving Talk. Hope you have enjoyed the last episodes. This is another Dadson edition in which me, Tim, gets a chance to ask my dad, Tinku Thompson, questions. How are you doing today, Dad?
I'm doing good. As one of my coworkers used to say, better than I deserve.
Okay. A quick reminder to all our listeners, Thriving Talk is available on major platforms like iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and more. So for today's topic, we're going to talk about how to manage our time. So why do we need to manage our time?
Time management. I think this is one of the most widely spoken topic. A lot of things have been written about it. So let me start by saying that we need to manage our time because our time is limited. We don't have an endless supply of time for us. If what we lose it. And, I'm going to present some calculations in front of you, right? So if somebody lives for 70 years, and let's go by 365 days in an year, it's just 25,550 days. That's all.
Okay.
And if you multiply that with 24 hours, it's just 613,200 hours.
That's it.
That's it. And so it's not like we have lot of time. No, we don't have it. So just imagine 25,550 days. And actually, Bible actually says that we need to be very careful about the time we have. I want to read a couple of verses actually from the Bible. Psalms 39 verses 4 to 6. It says, "Lives end and number of my days." Right? Just now listen to this. "Lord, remind me how brief my time on earth will be. Remind me that my days are numbered. How fleeting my life is. You have made my life no longer than the width of my hand. My entire lifetime is just a moment to you. At best, each of us is but a breath. We are merely moving shadows, and all our busy rushing ends in nothing. We heap up wealth, not knowing who will spend it." So, here, what we understand here is our time on earth is brief, and it is small, and we need to number our days in the sense like, as I numbered now, 25,000.
Yeah.
So let me give you a little bit more, a few more statistics, which I normally share. I've shared in many places.
Okay.
One day I sat down and calculated it.
Okay.
Bible actually says that something like our life is 70 or 80. So normally I take half of it. So let me say somebody lives 75 years, and today someone is 20 years of age. They have about 20,075 days left. That is about 481,800 hours. Now imagine someone is 30 years. They have 16,425 days left, which is 394,200 hours.
Okay.
Let's go further. Somebody is 50 and they live up to 75 years. They have 9,125 days,
Wow.
which is 219,000 hours. Now just imagine somebody is 60. They have 5,475 days, which is 131,400. This is all based on the assumption that somebody goes to live 75 years. Some people may live more, but we live in a world with a lot of uncertainties and a lot of things happening. Every week we just have 168 hours. That's all we have. So that's why I think it is very important that we should manage our time because it's a very limited resource. Just imagine if you are given like a gallon of water and you have told, or a milk and you're told that you have to survive on it for 1 week, what would you do? You will conserve it. You will make sure that you take properly.
First of all, that would be very hard.
Yeah, very hard, right? So now, same way, or anything else like that for that matter. So same way, we have to see time as a very limited resource or really limited thing which we have. So the goal is we need to, if we have to use it properly, we need to manage our time.
Okay. So if time is a limited resource, what are some tips on managing time?
Okay, managing time. So there are many ways people look at it, and first thing I would say is anything we do to manage time without realizing how important each moment is, each day is, or each hour is, we will not have the motivation to do much, right? So first thing is we need to realize what I just shared earlier, that we don't have, limitless time in front of us. So we only have, there is a fixed amount of time in front of us. So you need to have that realization, and then it goes into we can use different methods, tools, different strategies. I will get to that here a little later, but first of all, I'm going to start with this basic thing, that a realization that I have limited time and I have to use my time wisely, and I have to make sure that I'm using it in a way which aligns with my priorities in life is very important to do any time management.
Okay.
Otherwise, you would be wasting a lot of time. Okay.
So, so what are some basic steps to managing time?
Yeah, so there are many techniques, tools available. You can read, there are a lot of things. But you have to come up with something which works for you, right? I have
Right.
tried many, and I think now I have come to something which is working for me. But prior to that, let me talk to you about a model which is there in many places. There are many models, but one model is the plan model. So
Okay.
plan, P stands for prioritize what is important for each day. So each day has different priorities that needs to be taken care of, right? So when we are planning our days, we need to make sure that we look at what needs to be done on certain days, and we put those things into our schedule, and we plan a day. Like you have some days where you have music class, or you
Yeah.
have something else. So those days are different than other days. So you need to have days planned, and you need to prioritize. So basically, what is the priority for the day, right?
Okay.
The second in the plan is set L is lay out the time. So once you have priorities in place, you need to lay out what your needs and wants are, and you need to make sure that you dedicate time for it. So if you just have some plan like, okay, I need to do these things, but you don't allocate time, you don't lay out time for those things, it is never going to happen. The third thing is A, which is act on the things that can be done, right? So once you prioritize and have a plan, allocated time, make sure that you use that time, and capitalize most of the time you have allocated. And sometimes you may have time for them to do everything, and sometimes you may not have time to do everything. So that's why prioritization is important, because you go with the priority, what is more important. So basically, we need to make sure that things which matter are taken care of, which needs to be taken care of, and then there are certain things which can wait or which may not be that important. And
So, what about events that take a longer time? Like, if we need somebody's help, we need to match with their schedule and stuff like that.
you still need to plan. So, for example, let's say there is something. Okay, let's take a very practical example. For doing this thriving talk, we both are needed. So I cannot plan to do this 10 a.m. on Tuesday, because you will be at school, I'm working, right? We can't do that. Or I can't even plan for 8 a.m. because I could take some time to record this, but you are not there, you're going to school, right?
Yeah.
So we have to find a time, prioritize it, and allocate some time. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. Okay. So let me conclude that in the end is the basically the navigate the flexible time. So what does it means is there should be times during your days that allows for some flexibility because emergencies can always come up, right? And sometimes some random things show up. Like today, actually, I had some random things show up, and I had to go somewhere during the middle of the day to take care of something which was not planned at all.
Okay.
It took couple of hours, but there needs to be some flexibility. Don't jam pack your schedule to the extent that you don't have any room for anything. So that is another thing which we should be doing. So you need to have a plan, and then you should also seek wisdom in when you do these things. What does that mean is basically you need should not be afraid to ask help from others
Okay.
when you're trying to plan out your schedule. There may be things where you need others, just like you asked that question earlier. But you should have some advice from people if that will be helpful. And then also, I would say that your plan should be based on how the Lord is leading and what are the priorities in your life,
Okay.
right? So that's asking wisdom from the Lord. And Bible actually teaches us that if we ask God, He will give wisdom generously. The third thing we have to make sure is we do not waste our time because that's very easy. For example, if you watch one video, then that leads to second video, and all of a sudden you spend like 1 or 2 hours and you don't realize. So, and then that impacts what you're supposed to do. So sometimes relaxation, fun, entertainment is needed, but it should not take too much time, and it should not be at the cost of other priority things which we are supposed to do. So that is very important, and we should make sure that we don't lose focus and get sidetracked and completely lose sense of time. And so that is the third thing I would say is very important is we have to make sure that we do not waste time. Little little things can actually eat up your whole day. So there are days when you get up in the morning and let's say it's a holiday that day and you plan on doing a lot of things, but evening comes and you look back and say, man, the whole day is over, but I haven't done anything substantial because we sometimes are guilty of wasting our time. So that's important. The next thing, one more thing I will say is we need to aim for endurance. Basically, I would say consistency, endurance is very important because a good example will be, if somebody is planning to run a marathon, they don't actually start running a full marathon the day one. They will start with small steps, maybe a couple of miles initially. They'll slowly increase, build up their endurance, and they will make sure. Same thing is with if somebody is participating in a race, they don't like start full steam initially. They start slow and then catch up with the speed, and they make sure that the full energy is put in the end, right? So what I'm trying to say is we need to have that thing when it comes to managing our time. Otherwise, it can be very difficult. So another thing, along with that, I would say is we need to make sure we need to understand what our limitations and what we can do. But like some people may be good at doing something in like an hour. It may take us 4 hours. That's okay, but we need to have that self-realization that okay, this is what I would need, and plan according to that. So there are other techniques and tools available, but I would say this is very important. Some steps you can take. So let me just summarize as I was saying. So too many things. One thing I said is we need to have a plan, and in plan we should prioritize what is important for each day. We need to lay out time or plan the times when we will do that. Act on the things that can be done. We need to have flexible times during the day. And the second thing I said was seek wisdom.
Okay.
when needed, and make sure we are not wasting our time. And the fourth thing is we should have consistency, aim for endurance, as we develop time management habits in our life.
Okay. So I know we have, us humans have worldly priorities, and then we also have our spiritual habits or things we do. So how is time management going to help us in our spiritual life?
Yeah, if somebody is not managing their time well, I don't think their spiritual life can flourish. That's I'm
Okay.
telling you from my own personal experience.
Mm.
The reason for that is because spiritual growth and spiritual life, basically growth in spiritual life cannot just happen like in vacuum.
Mm.
We need to take time. So you have to read the Bible, you have to spend time in prayer, and whatever else your spiritual disciplines are, you need to do that.
Mm.
But the challenge is if you don't plan and if you don't have a habit, you're not going to do it. So some people
Okay.
would say that, some people will say, okay, I get up in the morning, pray, and do all those things. Actually, they're doing very well management of the time because that's what they're
Mm.
doing. But if you are thinking that, okay, I will get up in the morning, I will do everything, and then I will read the Bible, I will pray, everything. I will tell you that there are so many things nowadays that you will never get to it,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
That will impact your spiritual growth. I'm not trying to say that that will, affect your, your standing as a Christian because you could still go to church. The
Mm.
other thing is, if you don't manage your time, it will impact your punctuality and your, I would say, consistency in attending spiritual gatherings too.
Okay.
Because if you're not managing your time well, I used to give an example in the past, like Sunday morning, you have to go to church, but Saturday night you sit and don't sleep and you sit and watch something, or then you can't get up in the morning, you get late, or let's say you reach church late by the time the songs are or the worship time is over, then you sleep in the middle of the
Mm.
message, or you are like too tired. It's not going to be much of benefit. So one thing you have to do actually is you have to plan that on a Saturday night, if that's the way you work, you go to bed early so that you can be fresh and you can be in time in the church. So same way for anything you do. So I think if you are not if you're not a person who is managing your time well, I don't think you will be able to manage your spiritual life well. So you need
Okay.
that to make sure that your spiritual life is also going in the right track.
So you would have to have that thirst. So I know you have a lot of things on your plate and a lot of things you do, a full-time job, you work with the ministry, you are a pastor of a church, and many other things. How do you manage your time? Can you share how you do it?
Yeah, that's a good one. Um, I will admit that there was a time in my life where I wasn't managing very well, but I was just reacting. So what do you mean by reacting is, um, somebody comes and knocks at your door, you have to really take care of that, right?
Yeah.
So same way, I was going according to the things which were coming my way and not having a great plan, right? That was a time, long time ago.
Okay.
But over the years, I learned a lot of things. A few things started getting organized, but then still there was things missing. So finally, I think I have a methodology now, which I'm happy to share. So what I do now is, it all starts with something called as your goals for life, or I call it differently, but basically it's a goals. So you basically write down what are your goals,
Okay.
right? Um, so it has got all goals: your spiritual goals, your learning goals, both spiritually and for other things. So these goals are all written down. So probably you want to complete some courses, like maybe certification courses, or all those things. And then you maybe want to write something. So that's another thing. You want to do, some improvement in some area of your life. Even though I don't have it as a goal, but for some people it could be learning an instrument. So those things are there. Now the next step is you have to pick up few which you want to actively pursue currently. So if you have like 10 goals, I guarantee you that you cannot be pursuing 10 at the same time.
Okay.
So you have to basically pick few and say, okay, I'm going to focus the next month or 2 months on these things. So normally what I do is, so I take it from there and then it goes into my to-do list where I spread it across weeks and days, and then I have time allocated on my calendar for those things. So basically what that means is, if a learning goal is there, it gets into my to-do list as different things, which a lot of those things are like one item is which can be done in a day's time, like an hour or so. And then there is a time on my calendar to do that.
Okay.
So that's at a high level, but then what I also do is I have what is called as weekly planning I do. Typically on a Friday or Saturday I do a weekly plan where I basically write down, okay, in these areas of my life, what I want to do next week, right? And then I also allocate days for those things to be done. A good example is, okay, Thriving Talk. When do we do this? Blog. When do I write my AI blog? When do I write my other blog? When do I prepare my message for the weekend? When is it that the title needs to be finalized? When is that the message will be prepared, right? And so all those things. So that's a weekly plan.
Okay.
Then what I have is something called as a daily plan. So daily plan. So in the daily plan, I have basically 3 columns or 3 categories. One category is what is called as daily, which is every day I have to do.
Okay.
Right, and then which includes a little bit of fitness, my devotion times, and a few things like that, which I have to do every day. The second category is focus. So I pick, it can be up to 3. So I say these are the 3 things which are priority for the day. For example, if we are doing a recording, songs recording, let's say. So for that day in the focus, that will be one thing. And if you are doing a Thriving Talk recording, so podcast recording would be one thing there. Work is also a thing when I have work. Then the others are the things which are important, but it's okay if I don't get it done today, right? And sometimes it can be small things. For example, if I have to pay some bill, due date is 20 days out. If I don't get it today, it's okay.
Yeah.
Right? But if I delay it, one day it will become a focused task, because if I don't do it, it reaches the deadline, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of times, those things gets there. So one good example is, and I also make sure that I don't go after big achievements, but I have to make sure that even little. So 15 minutes of reading is better than not reading at all.
So small steps for a bigger goal.
Yes.
Okay.
So basically what I mean by that is, let's say I have to read a book. Okay, I know that it will take, let's say, 5 hours.
Okay.
So I'm going to wait for a day when I will have 2 hours to read or 1 hour to read. Very difficult.
Yeah.
But let's say I take every day 15 minutes, right? So in 4 days, I would be done with 1 hour of reading, right? But when you read 15, you will read more.
Yeah.
And then same with learning. So you may not be having like 2 hours to complete a course, but you could spend 20 minutes to do it. That's more easily manageable. But in a week's time, you would have completed that. Otherwise, you will never do that. So that's another thing which I personally do. The other thing is, so if I'm not doing some things from the others category, I'm still okay with that. Like, I'm not really worried about it.
Okay.
But I move it to the next day if I'm not able to do it.
Okay. So planning out your time. So to summarize, what would you say for people who are struggling to do these type of things?
Yeah, I would go back to where we started, right? First thing is the realization that our time is limited. Number two, if we don't manage it, it's going to slip out of our hands.
Okay.
Number three, I would say is if we waste it, we are not going to get it back. Like today is over, like today is over, but tomorrow is there for us if everything goes as normal. And then we have a choice to either manage it very well and use it for something good or just waste it, right? So that is very important. And then I didn't go into too much of methodologies because methodology will all fail if we don't actually have a priority goal in our life, and if we don't move along with it. So that's why I feel like it's very important that I think we did an episode on life management, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, in that I think I have shared more things about these things, but or other things about it. So it's very important that we realize it, we manage it, and we make progress, and don't go with big things. Even if on a day you are able to do small things, that gives you more progress than waiting for the perfect day when you can do everything, which is never going to happen. So make small progress. For example, one more example, I will give you a practical example. We all have cars, and those cars get dirty, right?
Yeah.
So some people wait like 6 months, 1 year when it's all dirty. So rather than that, and that time it may take you like 2-3 hours to clean up. Rather than that, if you have a recurring task every month to clean it up, what happens is it will take you 15 minutes, but you will be driving a clean car most of the time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you will be driving like a dirty car most of the time, and then it takes more time, and it adds frustrations.
Okay. So thank you for sharing that. So from today's episode, what I've realized is we need to plan out our time, and we have a limited time. So thank you for sharing. It was very helpful. In the coming weeks, we will be coming back with more Dadson editions of Thriving Talk, and I'll be asking more questions to my dad. As we said in the beginning, this episode is available on many different platforms. Do not forget to follow or subscribe to the Thriving Talk podcast on your favorite platform to receive new episodes as they get released. Also remember that my dad has a weekly newsletter in which he shares a lot of good information. The link to the newsletter will be in the show notes. Feel free to subscribe to the newsletter. We'll be back, but until then, remember that we need to use our time in this world wisely because we have a short and limited time in this world.